Welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Mrinmoy Pramanik. I teach comparative Indian language and literature at the University of Calcutta. Today we will discuss translation and national movement, and this module is from the paper Literary Translation in India. The content of this paper is written by Rindan Kundu, Junior Research Fellow, Department of Comparative Literature, Jadavpur University. Translation can be very important in cementing nationhood, particularly in the case of small or new nations and those which undergo some kind of profound transformations. Translation also help to fashion patriotic ideas within a nation. Translation can support the formation of national identities through both the selection of foreign text and the development of discursive strategies to translate them. A foreign text may be chosen because the social situation in which it was produced is seen as analogous to that of the translating culture and thus as illuminating of the problems that a nation must confront in its emergence. A foreign text may also be chosen because its form, the theme, contribute to the creation of a specific discourse of nation in translating culture. Similarly, a foreign text may be translated with a discursive strategy that has come to be regarded as a distinguishing characteristic of the nation, because that strategy has long dominated translation traditions and practices in the translating culture. A translation strategy may also be affiliated with a national discourse because it employs a dialect that has gained acceptance as the standard dialect or the national language. Such translation practices form national discourse because it employs a dialect that has gained acceptance as the standard dialect or the national language. Such translation practices from national identities through a specular process in which the subject identifies with cultural materials that are defined as national and thereby enable a self-recognition in a national collective. The fact that the materials at issue may include forms and themes, texts and cultures that are irreducibly foreign is repressed in a fantastic identification with an apparently homogeneous national identity. The irreducible foreignness of these materials may actually result in an intensification of national desire in this instance. Whatever linguistic and cultural difference may be communicated by a translation elicit a desire for a unified nation that the translation cannot fulfill by virtue of those very differences. Let us talk very briefly about the history of Indian freedom movement. In the backdrop of the Second World War, Party Congress of India decided to help Britain only if they promised Indians the autonomy to rule by withdrawing their imperial and colonial hegemony. British government was not ready to accept any conditional support of this sort. In a letter dated 17th October 1939, Governor General Lord Linlithgow asked the Congress cabinet to resign, refusing to discuss their plans on the war issues. He only committed to create an advisor body represented by the Indians, which would help the British government to handle the fallout of the war. The cabinets of Congress resigned, being disheartened by the approach of the Governor General. In their annual meeting held at Ramgarh on March 1940, Congress declared that instead of achieving dominion status, their aim was to get total independence. They also claimed that a constitutional body was to be elected through a democratic procedure. During the Second World War, Muslim League became very active. It is very important to note that the result of the 1937 general election disappointed Muslim League and especially their leader Muhammad Ali Jinnah. With a view to popularize Muslim League among the Muslims of India, Muhammad Ali Jinnah stressed that the Muslims of India should integrate in order to become self-dependent in the 1937 Lucknow Conference of Muslim League. Jinnah's words inspired the Muslim of Assam, Bengal and Punjab to join Muslim League and raise a public opinion. Jinnah started to attack National Congress with the charges of oppression and exploitation on the Muslims in the provinces dominated by Congress. Jinnah's words inspired the Muslims of Assam, Bengal and Punjab to join Muslim League and raise a public opinion. Jinnah started to attack National Congress with the charges of oppression and exploitation on the Muslims in the provinces dominated by Congress. Congress negated them as fabricated slanders. On the other hand, from the very beginning of the Second World War, the British took the divide and rule policy very seriously. The communal politics, the sectarianism helped them to do the same. Winston Churchill and other British conservative leaders were very eager to take maximum benefit from the rift fabricated by the communal interest. Jinnah was happy to see the Congress cabinets resigning in 1939 and celebrated the day as the day of deliverance. Such events took a significant shift when, under the leadership of Jinnah, demand for a separate nation was propagated on the basis of the Muslim League's two-nation theory. In the Lahore Congress of 1940, Jinnah officially presented the Lahore Resolution, which was later turned into the Pakistan Resolution by Jinnah himself on the 25th March of 1940. However, Jinnah's demand for Pakistan was not new because famous poet and philosopher Muhammad Iqbal was the first to vent the demand for Pakistan in Muslim League's Allahabad conference held in 1930. Following him, Chaudhuri Rahmat Ali, a student from Cambridge University, started Pakistan National Movement in 1933 in demand of a new nation. In the Lahore Congress, Fazlul Haq, famously known as Sher-e-Bengal, proposed that an independent nation would have to be made consisting of the Muslim dominated areas adjacent to northwestern and eastern India. Muslim League's two-nation theory put the integrated nationalist ideals of Congress into serious crisis. Jinnah, as a leader of the Muslim League, was able to popularize the ideals of Muslim League among the Muslims of India and made a strong support base. War-ravaged Britain wanted to get the support of the political leaders of India. On 8th August 1940, Governor General Linlithgow declared that the British government would give dominion status to the Indians after the end of the Second World War. Congress leaders were eager to give conditional support to the British, but the August declaration disappointed them. Muslim League also rejected the declaration because it would turn them into a minority status. War situation and the international politics took a heavy toll on the British. In order to negotiate with the leaders of India, Sir Stafford Cripps was sent to India on 22nd March 1942. However, Cripps' mission failed because it did not mention anything about India's total independence. It did not let the Indians to take the responsibility of their own security, and proposed national government was not given equal right and power like the British cabinet. August movement had a far-reaching effect. However, it failed because of the lack of leadership. Unarmed Indians could not stand long against the armed British. Lack of unity was evidently another reason of failure, as Congress failed to integrate other political parties to the movement. However, this movement was incredible because of its magnanimity. This movement is assumed to have paved the way for the independence of India. The deadlock in the Indian politics that evolved during the Second World War went on without any respite. Gandhi Jinnah meetings failed because of Jinnah's demand for Pakistan. In the meeting during October 1943, Lord Archibald Wavell replaced Lord Linlithgow as the Governor General of India. Before giving total autonomy to India, Wavell wanted to know how the Hindu, Muslim, Sikh leadership would help in the proposed governmental procedure. Jinnah claimed that all the Muslim members of the proposed working committee would have to be the member of the Muslim League. Congress could not agree to his proposal, and the Sikh also raised their voice against the Shimla proposal. So the Shimla Congress failed to bring any consensus among the members of the different political parties. Along with the political movement of Congress, a wave of armed movement was rising both inside and outside of India. The most prominent figure leading this movement was Subhash Chandra Bose. On 28 March 1941, Subhash Chandra Bose left Moscow for Germany with a hope to form Azad Hind Bahini, Indian National Army. During the Second World War, Germany was the enemy of the British, and thus they welcomed Subhash Chandra Bose cordially. He wanted to form the Indian National Army with the Indian soldiers who were imprisoned in Germany. He also requested the Axis powers to declare India's independence. Inspired by his personality and patriotism, imprisoned Indian soldiers took part in the Indian National Army. Another freedom fighter, Rajbihari Bose, formed the Indian Independence League at a conference in Bannock. From this conference, Subhash Chandra Bose was invited to Southeastern Asia. Rajbihari Bose and Mohan Singh already made an attempt to form the Azad Hind Bahini in Singapore. The formation of Azad Hind Bahini was declared on 1st September 1942. Approximately 40,000 Indian soldiers took part in the Bahini. During this time, to Subhash Chandra Bose's call to the nation, Delhi Chalo, a number of civil revolts took place. The most important among them was the Bombay Naval Revolt. Talwar was the first ship where the naval revolt was initiated on 18 February 1946. Poor quality of food and the racist attitude of the British naval staffs enraged the Indian naval staffs to revolt, and eventually they set fire on the ship. Navy staffs and soldiers of Karachi port also revolted. Under these circumstances, British government realized that they could not depend on the Indian army anymore, and it was becoming difficult for them to continue their colonial rule in India. On the very first day of the Bombay Naval Revolt, British Prime Minister took the historical decision of transferring the power to India. In order to address the political crisis of India, Clement Attlee declared to send a mission consisting of 3 members of the British cabinet. This mission was known as the Cabinet Mission. The members of this mission were Pethick Lawrence, Sir Stafford Cripps, and A.V. Alexander. This mission came to India on 24th March 1946. Members of this mission initiated discussions with the leaders of Congress, Muslim League, and other political parties in order to bring a consensual agreement which would help them to solve the political crisis. Jinnah demanded partition, and on the other hand, Congress vehemently protested to the proposal of partition. Considering the political situation, Cabinet Mission presented a proposal on 19th May 1946. Their recommendations were the following. A federal union would be formed consisting of the British ruled India and its provinces. Distribution of power would take place between the central government and the provincial government. The entire nation was divided into 3 units: Hindu dominated provinces, Muslim dominated provinces, Bengal and Assam. In order to draft the Indian constitution, a committee would be formed including the elected members of very individual unit. On 16th August 1946, gruesome communal riot broke out in Calcutta and subsequently in East Bengal, Bihar and Punjab, killing thousands of people of both the Hindu and Muslim community. The interim national government took their charge under the leadership of Jawaharlal Nehru on 2nd September 1946. Lord Wavell entreated Muslim League to join the government. League did the same to control Congress. The interim government found it difficult to work because of the lack of understanding between Congress and Muslim League. In this situation, on 20th February 1946, British Prime Minister Clement Attlee declared that the British government would transfer the power to the Indians by June 1948. He had also declared that if the Constitution Drafting Committee failed to draft the Constitution by that time, the British would leave India, enriching the central governance authority to any of the political parties according to their whims. Lord Mountbatten came to India as the new Governor General after a few days of this declaration. During that time, India was brutally inflicted by communal riots. Indiscriminate communal riots took a heavy toll on the lives and properties of the citizens of India. Lord Mountbatten tried to convince the Congress leaders to accept the partition of India. Considering the pathetic situation of Indian Congress leaders had no other options left but to accept the heartbreaking reality of partition. Having discussed the matter with both Congress and Muslim League, Lord Mountbatten declared his plan to divide India on 3rd June 1947. British Prime Minister Clement Attlee also declared the decision to divide India. Congress had to do away with the idea of an integral India after Lord Mountbatten's declaration. The British Parliament presented the draft of Independence India Act on 4th July 1947. On 18th July, this bill was converted into a law. According to this law, 2 individual nations named India and Pakistan would emerge on 15th August 1947, having individual Governor General and House of Law, and the constitutional committees of both these nations would be honored as Parliament. Proposed India would include Bombay, Madras, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, East Punjab, West Bengal, Assam, Ajmer and Coorg. Later, 3 provinces would be annexed, having separated from the Muslim-dominated districts. Pakistan would include Sindh province, West Punjab, East Bengal, Baluchistan and the Srihatta district of Assam. Until the drafting of the constitution, both these nations would follow Indian Governance Act of 1935 with minor relevant alterations to join either Indian Union or Pakistan and claim themselves as independent. Conference of the Constituent Assembly took place at the midnight of 14th August 1947. In this assembly, India was declared independent, being part of the British Commonwealth, and with this the 200-year-long British rule came to an end. Lord Mountbatten was the first Governor General of independent India, and Muhammad Ali Jinnah was first Governor General of Pakistan. Now let us talk about the translation and nation building, or translation as nation building. At the national level, translation helps in bringing out national integration and helps people in their effort at nation building and establishing national identity. The importance of translation can be located in the fact that translation brings the readers, writers, and critics of one nation into contact with those of others, not only in the field of literature but in all areas of human development, science and philosophy, medicine, political science, law and religion, etc. Translation in this way plays an essential role in determining how a nation establishes its identity in terms of others, be this through opposition to foreign influences, thorough assimilation or naturalization of the foreign, whereby differences are erased to as a great a degree possible, or through limitation of another, usually dominant culture. These all are different strategies of translation, becoming possibilities at different moments in history and underlining the various types of relations between nations which can exist. Thus, there is a particular strong interconnection between translation and constitution of national identity, and the study of translation can be useful in determining the nature of national identity and the nature of the relations one nation institutes with others. Translation can indeed be a tool with a strong political dimension. It is not an unambiguous tool, since it can serve both the dominator and the dominated, the first by creating a certain transparency which is always in their favor, and the second by preserving the other as other, the structures of colonization as external, imported and historical. Now, let us conclude the discussion. Although translation nationalisms are usually deliberate, driven by specific cultural and political goals, neither translators nor their audiences need to be aware of the social effects produced by translated text. The formation of national identities can remain unconscious because it occurs in language that originates elsewhere in the subject's relations to others, but that the subject perceives as his or her own self-expression. Now, let us summarize the whole discussion. This module is on the national movement and translation, how the work of translation reflects the history of national movement, how translation is important for national movement or for imagining the nation we have discussed in this module. We have tried to propose a frame of the relation between translation and national movement, translation and nation building. It is not only the case of India. If we see any other country or linguistic community, we can find a sense of nationalism, a sense of nation and nation building in different languages, in different communities, in different cultures, where translation has enough to contribute, or translation contributed a lot, because translation cannot be happen in isolation. Translation is very much purposive act. There is always a specific context of choosing some text, translating some text, and there are the WH questions, that why, how, when a text is selected, a text is translated. In that sense, the significant history of national movement or nation building in India also gives a pace to the work of translation, because this political movement, this movement for identity, selfhood, self-respect, actually reflected in the literature, reflected in the further later history, and reflected in the work of translation also. Here all these political agenda work as norm to select a text, to translate a text, and this is how translation is very much related with the work of nationalism, with the sense of nationalism, and with the work of nation building. Thank you.